All right, well, let's go ahead and get started since we have about 45 minutes here with you. Welcome to this YCP webinar. We're thrilled to have our career coaches here, Mary Unverfirth and Tracy Tim, brand new career coaches to YCP. They are not new career coaches. They have many years experience they're bringing to the tables, but we're thrilled that they've decided to partner with YCP and to support you all, our members. So myself, my name's Peter. I'm on staff here with YCP, so I get to work for YCP full-time. I've been on the team now about 6 years. I started off as a volunteer for the Dallas chapter, helping out way back in the day when the Dallas chapter was the only chapter of YCP. And now, as you guys know, we're part of a national community that stretches from coast to coast with 21 different chapters linked together, both through the body of Christ and through this network of YCP that we've put together. So today, we want to offer you kind of a glimpse into an ongoing benefit that we're going to offer through our virtual career coaches, which is a member exclusive offering for those of you who might already be paying members or be excited to sign up following this webinar. We know it's a really crazy world that we live in right now, this whole COVID pandemic world. We know many of you have been affected adversely or maybe affected in the near future by all of the changes going on in the world to try and adapt to this just craziness. So we wanted to offer this free and open to anyone who wanted to join as a valuable resource to help you along in whatever stage you're at in your own career journey. This fits well into our YCP mission and our patron, alongside our patron, St. Joseph the Worker, so that we can really understand our own career development and focus, while at the same time growing in our Catholic faith, what it means to really embrace our Catholic identity. So I'm going to turn it over to Mary and Tracy. They'll each share a little bit of their background, and then they're going to really go deep on a bunch of awesome content. So get your notepad ready. We will have some time for questions at the end. So keep those in mind, jot them down along the way. We're going to use the chat feature, the group chat feature. So if you do have questions along the way, write them in there, and we'll get to those at the end of the presentation. So thank you again for joining us. Mary, Tracy?
Yay! Thank you, Peter. All right, so Mary and I are so excited to be here. I'm going to kick off by telling you a little bit about myself, and Mary's going to share about herself, and then we're going to have a really fun back and forth sharing of some of our best content for you guys based on where you are in your careers right now. So a little bit about myself and my story. The reason that I have the business that I have now is a product of my own personal story. As many of you may know, entrepreneurs sort of, even the unexpected or unassuming or accidental entrepreneurs like me tend to find a problem that they want to solve for themselves and then realize, hey, I might not be the only one going through this, and I wonder if I could help facilitate the solution of this problem for other people. So I'm born and raised Catholic. I was actually born and raised in Dallas. And my story begins with me from the moment I can remember being a high performer and an overachiever. I was output and outcome focused from day one. In fact, one of my favorite stories that I tell that super embarrasses my mom is that my parents caught on to this so quickly that they used to give me grades for my behavior and even my behavior in church. So I would sit in, the car after church and say, did I get my A? Did I get my A+? It wasn't enough to get an A, I had to get an A+. And so that type of behavior and that sort of compulsion that I had really carried me all the way through to my very first career, meaning my grades in school, I couldn't just be, an A student, I had to be the best. I couldn't just play the saxophone in middle school, I had to be first chair. And then of course I couldn't just play softball, which I've been a lifelong athlete. I had to be a varsity freshman year, and I had to play in college. So all that sort of came together, and I ended up being a pretty elite athlete by the time I was graduating at school, and I graduated fourth in my high school class. So I got recruited at Yale, which was a really cool opportunity, having been born and raised in Dallas and having no connections there. And Yale was my first time where my real inner nerd came out, because I don't know about you guys, but I had never questioned what we studied in high school. It was just math, science, whatever. And then by the time I got to college, I was like, oh my gosh, there's all these amazing classes and things I can study. And so I just started dabbling around in things I found interesting or fascinating or things I was curious about. And that's actually how I discovered the study of psychology. So I ended up majoring in psychology and specializing in behavioral psychology. So motivation and behavior and why we do the things we do. And yet, the funny part was that I was so focused on grades and excelling that I really didn't consider what happens after college? And I know that may sound naive or silly, but I didn't give my career a single thought until my senior year. So I wound up at a career fair, and ironically, I had sold Cutco knives. If any of you are familiar with Cutco, I sold Cutco knives in college. One of my friends had studied abroad in Scotland, and so I wound up working for the Royal Bank of Scotland in sales, of all things. That's literally how it happened. Stumbled on them at a career fair. So my very first job was actually, technically, that would be on Wall Street. So I was doing sales and trading on a trading floor in Stamford, Connecticut. And frankly, I still can't believe it's like a whole nother life away at this point, because for 2.5 years, I was sitting on a trading floor in front of 4 computer screens, handling, trades of millions of dollars, and stressed, basically out of my mind. And the crazy part, and maybe some of you can resonate with this, is that I probably knew in my heart and my gut within weeks of starting that job that it was a bad fit. But for years, I just ignored how uncomfortable and anxiety ridden I had really gotten. And so there were 3 big epiphanies that I had that helped me really dig into how much I actually believed in having a purpose-driven career and having something that, my faith, which had carried me through all the hard times and all the anxieties in high school and college and even my first job, having that be a more integral part of the work that I was doing in the world. So these 3 epiphanies, one of them ties Mary in really well, because my first epiphany came with working with Yale Career Services. I called them up and said, hey, I would run out of the door tomorrow, but I just don't know where I'm running to. Do you have anything as far as clarity resources for your previous students? And while they had a ton of great tactical and practical items and even introductions to companies, they sort of didn't have something comprehensive that was really focused on helping me figure out what it was that I wanted to do. So that seemed like epiphany number 1. That was where the seed really got planted, that maybe this is something that other college graduates are dealing with. My second big epiphany was one day I was out at my office 2 years in, walking with a good friend of mine who we used to go every single day on a break together. And we were walking on the balcony of our office, and we were overlooking this little river, and it had a sort of like a bridge that ran over it, and they were doing construction on it. And in a second, I noticed it and said, hey, I wonder what they're doing down there. And my friend completely changed. He sort of came to life. His eyes opened up. He sort of like stood up taller, and he was like, oh, Tracy, I studied engineering in college and I love construction. And then he launched into this like 5-minute long thing about cement and bridges and whatever. And I had literally never seen this guy come alive in that way. And we'd worked together for a year. And I remember thinking, wow, like when was the last time I gushed about anything, like let alone my job? And here was this guy who had presumably this thing that he loved, and yet wasn't acting on it, wasn't living it. And the reason that he said he didn't was because it's not what he was expected to do, and it's not what sort of, again, these were his words, successful people do. And so that sort of planted a seed in my brain as well, thinking, okay, well, if I can find the thing that I'm really jazzed about, like maybe I can turn that into work of some sort, and that could be a little bit more meaningful. And then the straw that broke the camel's back was epiphany number 3. You guys don't know me very well yet, but you'll get to know me a lot better. If you know me for all of 5 minutes, you'll know that I love weddings, especially Catholic weddings, because there's usually a ton of wine, there's a lot of dancing, there's a lot of love in the air. And so my second year in my job, I got to go to Notre Dame for a friend's wedding. It was gorgeous. And it was a high school friend. And so we were all there together, all of my high school friends that I'd known from church, from actually St. Anne's, if any of you know St. Anne's Parish in Dallas growing up. And I was miserable. I was so miserable from my job that I couldn't separate myself from work enough to be present in the moment with these people that I loved, in a place that I loved, doing something that I loved. And so I actually found myself sitting outside on the curb crying while everybody else was inside at the reception having a great time. And I had a friend come out and sit in front of me and say, Tracy, what is going on with you? Because this isn't you. This isn't you. And it was the first person in that moment of my life who sat in front of me and was the mirror that I couldn't ignore. And so all 3 of those things came together, and I literally up and quit my job. I wrote my I quit speech on my flight home from that wedding. And the rest has been history. I enrolled myself in school, again, not to get a degree, but to go on a semester at sea. So maybe some of you out there are familiar with what Semester at Sea is, but it's a really cool study abroad opportunity that's usually only for undergrads, but I went as a post-grad, which was a little tricky and a little sneaky, but really worth it. And I got to travel around the world and see people who were inspired again and refreshed and had purpose and felt like they could change the world, felt like they could do something really positive with their careers. And it really lit me back on fire. And it wasn't until I got back to the United States and started falling back into my old habits, into doing what I thought I was supposed to, getting a job because it gave me dental insurance, you know, making a solid wage again, that I actually had what I call really my literal come to Jesus moment. And maybe some of you have experienced this. I thought quitting a job that paid me a ton and looked great to everybody else was going to be the low. And then I thought sort of trying to piece my life together was going to be the low. The last job I took before I started my business was such a bad fit for me that I got fired. Within like 6 months. Like, it was not a long time. And I say that and I fall on that sword because there's nothing worse, you guys, than being fired from a job that you hate in the first place. So those of you who think you're hiding, you think like you're gonna get by through this phase, like they will find you out. And so I remember thinking, you know, Lord, I quit this high paying job. I traveled, I'm soul searching. I thought I took this job for a good reason. Like, what do you want from me? What do you want me to do? And honestly, you guys, the resounding answer was, you haven't really tried. I planted these seeds for you. I gave you these epiphanies. Now's your time to go solve this problem for other people. So that was 6 years ago and I haven't looked back. So today I run a career clarity business. I have 8 people who work with me, some contractors, some part-time, some full-time. We have a set of people who enroll clients into our programs. We have clarity coaches who facilitate our programs. We've got marketing people. I have a business partner that I'm working with, and we are just taking over the world, sort of one career clarity epiphany at a time. And it's just been a really fantastic journey. There's so many more things I could get into, and I'm happy to go into detail later on if you guys have specific questions about what that journey was like. But I want to hand it over to Mary to talk about her experience and how she got to where she is today.
Thank you, Tracy. I've heard that story in a shortened version, and I just love hearing all the details. I think that entrepreneurs tell their story better than most people can tell their career story. So that was lovely. A little bit about me. I'm from Houston, Texas. I'm a Fighting Texas Aggie class of 2013. Whoop! For any of you Aggies out there. I'll share a little bit about my story in hopes that something resonates with you, or perhaps it's something that you want to pick up and talk with me about later. Yes, I see a whoop. I love it. Thanks for commenting. So I come into career counseling from a bit of a unique background. Like Tracy, I also studied psychology, but I started off in business and took a couple of classes. Hands down to any accounting people out there, I really am impressed by you. But that was my turning point. I was like, I'm not looking to study the consumer experience. I'm looking to study the human experience. And so moving into psychology was a great fit. My dad goes, what kind of engineering is psychology? Can we walk that back? And so despite some pushback, it's a great fit for me. Working with people is hands down my vocation. I love it. And listening, I think, is one of those gifts that have propelled me with those transferable skills, have taught me that this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And it's very much my mission to listen to others and to help them identify their career and their interests and their skills and their values. So faith has always played a big role in that process. St. Mary's at A&M, if some of you have heard of it, it's pretty famous. It's a place where people root and anchor in their faith and in Christ. And you often leave St. Mary's wondering, okay, do I have a vocation, or like, how is faith going to play a central role in my career? And I think a lot of you, no matter if you went to A&M or not, are probably wondering that too. You know, how do I make faith a part of my 9 to 5, or at least a part of my life in a very serious way? So I think that also ties into our passion. Faith is really rooted in our passion and our mission in life, and something Tracy and I really hope to start touching on in this webinar, but also maybe touch on specifically in one-on-one, is what is your mission? What is your identity in Christ? And like, how does that play out in your career? So for me, working with people was definitely the first start. And I worked in some environments where faith was central and some environments where faith was not, but it's always guided my work. And so through what we'll offer you is like, we can use that spiritual lens to work with you, to talk with you and help you identify the next steps. But going back to, you know, how does passion play a role? It's hard to decide when you're on this career path, when you build a resume that looks like everything you've just kind of done looks the same. And we continue to build resumes that look like things we just have done, not necessarily what we're good at or what we want, which reminds us that, you know, this pandemic has caused us to slow down, to root, to take stock and evaluate what it is we want and where we're going to go. So that will really tie into some of the content that Tracy and I have for you. But what we really want to encourage you is start now. Like if you wanted to start yesterday, you logged into this webinar, you're totally on the precipice of change and motivation. So Tracy, why don't you walk us through what start now looks like with the Nth degree, and then I'll kind of add to that.
Yeah, sure. I love it. So you guys should know that Mary and I sort of are obsessed with one another. We've gotten to talk a lot about our respective backgrounds and our work. And what's really fun is that we complement each other really, really well. Mary has a body of knowledge given her work within higher education that I frankly don't have, and vice versa, because my business is focused almost exclusively on career clarity and on building a vision for your ideal career, that best and highest version of you as a professional, and how that can be manifested in the world in such a way that you're actually living your purpose through your work. So start with now to me means, I've coached a lot of people. And at one point I was going through core values with a woman who's actually also Catholic. And she was like, but I really want one of my core values to be charity. Like I want to give away more. I want to do more. I want, I want to be that person that people know, gives and does this and that. And I was like, but is that where you are in your life right now? Do you have money or time to give, or do you need to live charity another way? And it helped me really realize that we need to be rooted in the present moment in order to move forward. It's sort of that classic grow where you're planted mentality. And so in my business, about 3 years into business, I created, trademarked, and then started licensing and building programs around a proven methodology. It's called the Nth degree. And the Nth degree has 3 major phases. We help you discover your idea, discover your true value, define your unique genius zone, and then drive your career like a pro. And then that's broken into 7 steps. But what Mary said is step number 1 is now. We always start with now, which means where are you in your life? What are your circumstances that are non-negotiable? Meaning, if you live alone and don't even have a goldfish, let alone a house or a spouse or a dog or anything that requires your sort of long-term responsibility, you have a totally different set of choices in front of you than somebody who, say, is married and has a 3-month-old and just bought a house and oh, by the way, we're both living in this crazy pandemic world, right? So when we start with now, it's both your circumstance, well, it's 3 things: your circumstances, your core values, meaning at this moment in your life, what really moves the needle for you? And then taking those core values and really upping the stakes and turning them into commitments, such that if you were truly living your values in your choices, especially in your career choices, what would life look like for you? And I don't know about you, Mary, and in your experience with coaching people, especially at the upper sort of higher education level, I find that the most incongruence between somebody's career and what they really want in life, like the reason that they're not experiencing sustainability, the reason that there's conflict or issue, is that they're living and working with a different set of values than they actually hold dear. And because of that, their environment and the culture are completely out of whack. But yeah, I'd love to kick it back to you and see, what you see as far as career alignment is concerned.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think the piece I want to mention first is the start now in terms of my work with individuals is start now in that project you've been putting off. What is it that you've been dying to learn that you now have time to learn, that you could also take advantage of the free resources that are available through LinkedIn Learning. If you haven't heard of it before, tons of free online classes to brush up on your networking skills, everything from some of this career development work we're talking about to learning a new language like Python, or even, if you want to try Duolingo and learning Spanish. Now's the time to build up your resume, to dust off the resume, right? To say, okay, I have some time. Let me look at what I've done. Let me take stock of where I want to go next, and how can I add to it with a new certification. If you are interested in anything business, Google Analytics and Google AdWords have free certifications out there that you can take and put on your resume and use as talking points, which I think ties into another component of the Start Now is I'm trying to get people to be ready to answer the question, which will be the first thing on our lips when things resume normal or just life gets a little bit more steady is, what did you do with your time during the pandemic? How did you make the most of the time you had spending at home? Was it Netflix, or did you at least log into a couple Coursera classes and take some online certifications, right? Interviewers are going to be crazy over questions like this. So whether or not you're ready to move careers now or even a year from now, this pandemic has punctuated our lives, and I think we need to be ready to talk about it in a way. So I think Tracy and I will even be able to say, like, we decided to work with you guys during this period of time, right? We're doing our jobs, but we want to like give back and talk with you and help you get to where you want to go. So that will be our talking point. So what will your talking point be? You know, a certification or an assessment, you know, that you're trying to learn, or learning a new language. And the next thing we're going to talk about is the networking component, which helps you even get to share this part of this story. So yeah, Tracy, what would you say about networking? And I'll kind of
Oh man, we do not have enough hours in the day for us to talk about how to do this properly and how important people are in your job, career, search, development, period, right? I think this goes back to some, you know, very central Catholic teachings too. Like the Trinity is a great example of the fact that we are not made to go through life alone. We are made for community, and we are innately designed to want to help others and to be receivers of help ourselves. And yet I know you guys out there, I know you people, I know you're the ones going, oh, I don't want to ask for help. I don't want to be a burden. I should be, you know, suffering, struggling in your 20s and 30s is normal. Like, get rid of that garbage thinking. Like, go back. I get so passionate about working with especially Christian-based organizations, especially because I'm Catholic, because I feel like we get so centered around the long-suffering piece of our faith, and we forget that, like, we're made for abundance, we're made for joy, we're made for fulfillment, and like your career can be that thing. So if you're suffering right now, you're suffering unnecessarily, and people are going to be one of the best pieces to leverage to get you out of that feeling of suffering. So when we talk about networking, there's a couple components. Basically, there's like what you're going to say, who you're going to say it to, how you're going to say it, and like how you're going to get in front of that person in general. And so I'm great at half of that. Mary's great at the other half. So then we're going to go back and forth a little bit. First and foremost, in this period of chaos and uncertainty, and do I do this? Do I do that? Is it safe? Is it not safe? And the fact that we're at really extremely high unemployment levels, you need to understand one major operating principle. He or she with the most clarity is going to win. When there's a ton of chaos and a ton of noise going on in the world and people just trying to get a job instead of the job or the best job, right? You're going to be competing with even more people for a job that previously didn't have that much interest in it anyway. You have got to develop exactly the value that you add and be able to articulate that value to the right people at the right times in the right ways. Okay, what does that mean? That's a lot of jargon, right? Basically, you have to be able to tell them not how you're an awesome employee and how you meet the requirements and how sort of your experience makes sense. What businesses are looking for in times of uncertainty are not more employees, okay? Because then you're just another line item that they're worried about paying for at the end of every 2 weeks. They're looking for assets. They're looking for people they can invest in that are long-term, that are worthy of their time and worthy of their pay. So you have to now articulate to a company, this is exactly how not only I add value, whether that's through your gifts, whether that's through your experiences, whether that's through your values, but how that value is untouchable by anybody else, meaning irreplicable. It's only you, right? The combination thereof is your amazing gift to give to that business, to that industry, to that company, to that organization. So, but what Mary's really great at is teaching people how to ask for networking opportunities. So Mary, dive into that.
Sure. 2 points to that too, just to piggyback off what you just said. That's a tall order, right? To identify your value. So total plug for why we're here to meet with you guys and why signing up for membership is an incentive is because it's so hard to ask that question alone, right? Like, yes, you can get pen and paper, take your journal out, you can go to Eucharist, you can pray, And the Lord will definitely inspire you, but like we are meant, like you said, Tracy, to like work together on this. So that is exactly our mission and why we want to help you define that value. In career services, we title it a little different. We call it Transferable Skills. And a message I want to leave with a lot of you right now is the transferable skills, despite if you're coming from an industry that's failing, are still needed in industries that are thriving.
Yes.
So if you're out of work right now, don't fear. Like, you have a lot to offer. It just might be repackaging it and repurposing it for a different industry. So we're going to help you identify what that looks like. For me, if I ever needed to like leave career counseling, it would be my interpersonal skills and my master's in counseling, right? Like for a master's that's transferable, you can really use it in a lot of settings, despite how niche it could be, because it's more about how you spin it and more about how you articulate it to the right people through networking, which Tracy, you helped me out with saying like the way that you ask, I think also really gets you to like have a door being opened. So hopefully you all have LinkedIns. If you don't, we can definitely help you build those out. I spend so much time on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to show you kind of the ins and outs of how to utilize it best. But you have to like send those connection requests, and what you want to say in those connection requests to the people that have a career that's interesting to you, or maybe just are a friend that's working at a company that you know nothing about, but you know would be good to reconnect over that kind of their career and their career trajectory. You want to send a message and you want to say, you know, hey Tracy, it's really great to connect with you. We met through YCP. Would you spare 20 minutes to talk with me over the phone sometime in the next 2 weeks about your career journey? And there are a few key things that are really important to get that yes. You ask for 20 minutes because it's not a full lunch break. It's not like an hour in the middle of nowhere. It's 20 minutes, really easy to say yes. 2 weeks, because you're not asking for like a month from now or kind of like an unbounded time request, which are really like, we get really overwhelmed with those. So say 2 weeks. And then say over the phone, because via email, it's really hard to make that connection, or even say over Zoom, right? If you wanted to have like a virtual coffee. We are thriving, we are desiring connection right now, more so than I think we have been in a long time. So don't be afraid to ask, but that one message might not get you a yes. I would definitely encourage you to send 3 messages that might lead to 1 interview, or 5 messages, which might lead to 1 interview and 1 referral. Right? And the more messages, the more likely you're going to be having these conversations that legitimately build your network and also turn over into some interviews. So that's definitely my LinkedIn plug. I have found that the informational interview, which is what I'm describing, can be phenomenally influential in your career. And Tracy's going to tell you a little bit more about how to make the most of those conversations.
Yes, this is one of my favorite things to teach, because this comes really naturally to me personally. I didn't realize until I had an intern who was super introverted and very specific and detail oriented and very sincere, that she did not feel comfortable enough to share even a 99% baked vision for her career, let alone a half-baked vision for her career. And so what I have really mastered, I think, and taught a lot of people is how do you actually pitch yourself, quote unquote, to somebody and get information back from them that's helpful when you don't know with 100% clarity what it is that you want to do. And the goal here is to get that person enrolled in caring about what it is that you're seeking, and to help them paint a picture or a vision of it so they can help you fill in the pieces that you don't know. So I created a really simple 4-step career pitch process that I teach people, that basically allows you to pre-plan what it is that you're going to say to set the tone for any informational interviews, networking conversations, potentially even interviews if you really want to go there. So there are 4 steps. I call them purpose, enroll, vision, and ask. So in purpose, first and foremost, you want to define the purpose behind the pitch. Why are you talking to this person now specifically? And I learned this from my mom. I used to go to her before like really tricky conversations and be like, Mom, I don't know what I'm going to say. And she would always center it with, if you could only get one thing out of this conversation, what do you want? Okay, so that's the first question you want to ask yourself. If I can only get one thing out of this conversation, what do I need? What do I need to move my career forward? Is it an introduction? Is it an opportunity? Is it a job offer? You know, ask for what you need. So that's the purpose behind the pitch. The second thing is enroll. It's so easy when we're caught up in our own story. You're on your own roller coaster, right? And the person you're talking to has no context for your roller coaster. So if you want to get them on the coaster with you, you've got to give them some background information about how you got to where you are. this has a really good second effect, which is once you enroll that person emotionally into your story, they're psychologically sort of linked to you, right? They want to help you. And in fact, they need to help you. And if they don't, they feel really bad about it. So again, not sneaky and not manipulative, but helpful, because you want to enroll people. You want to get people to care about where you are in your career to help you. It's human nature, right? So the third piece is your vision, sharing your vision for the future with them. And this is where Mary and I get really specific about sharing your vision sans the environment that it's been in previously, especially if you're looking to make some type of career change or career transition. So instead of saying, I want to be an X or I'm looking for a Y job, you say, you know, like Mary described her career when we just started the webinar, which was, I live to serve people. I want the human experience, not the business experience. When I used to tell people what I was made for, when I finally figured it out, which took a while, I used to say, you know what? I want to work with people, on people, taking something good, not something broken and fixing it, but taking something good and making it great. I really want to help people identify with their purpose and see if they can't figure out a way to live that purpose in their profession. And that became an entrepreneurship based endeavor, but it could have been anything else. Like Mary said, right? It sounds really niche. I could be working in professional development in a company. I could be a counselor. I could be a sports psychologist helping professional athletes reach their peak, right? There's so many ways that you can apply your niche. Your goal is to share it and paint a vision for the person you're networking with so they see it in their mind's eye, and they can help you fill in the gaps or the blanks that you don't know. And then the last part, step 4, is ask for what you need. Do not be afraid to say, and I'm so excited to be talking to you specifically because I feel like you may be connected to the person who I need to talk to next. Could you help me figure out who that is? Right? I'm so excited to be talking to you because you're in a business that I think I would love to work in. Can you help me understand if that role exists in your business? You know, ask for what you want to learn and ask for what you need next that's really going to propel you forward. That's my 4-step pitch process for this networking piece.
You said something that really resonated with me that I think is an important message to remind some of our younger professionals, that if you're in an industry that you don't like, or you just got in and you're like, oh, this isn't what I thought, it is never too late to pivot, and there are tools to pivot, and we can help you figure that out. So even if you're in an industry that you've been in for 10, 15 years, again, you're never stuck. And our goal is to help you kind of always stay positive and figure out how we can help you get to where you want to go. Something I want to kind of wrap up with is that I saw a meme, which memes are all over our news feeds right now, but one particularly in Lent, which I think just made me heartily chuckle and was very Catholic, is that it was the Lentiest Lent we've ever lented. And in many ways, I think we probably feel like Lent has continued. We're still fasting from so many things that give our life, you know, the life that we thought we were living, right? You know, like going to the beach and being with large groups of friends, either at, you know, social events or sporting events. So we've definitely had to let go of some of that normalcy, but we are very much under the belief that this is going to pass, it is temporary, and that if you are going through a hard part with your job right now, your job search, that there's goodness in the horizon, and that by slowing down, like logging into this webinar, by meeting with us, we're excited to help you get there, and we want you to help you stay positive. So Tracy, what would you add to that?
It's so beautiful. I had never seen that meme before you told me about it, and I laughed pretty hard because we are in a weird state of continued fasting, right? We're fasting from like physical touch. We're fasting from distance. We're fasting from celebrations in a lot of ways. And it's a challenge for sure, especially for, I'm like a classic extrovert. If you look up extrovert in the dictionary, AKA where you get energy, I'm all about people. And so, you know, I give my cats like extra cuddles and hugs and just hope that that works. But it's a challenging time that we're in. And I think that at the end of the day, I shared this with Mary, you know, especially if, let's say you're pursuing entrepreneurship in some way, it can be so easy to get overwhelmed with what you're going through. But I think having our faith foundation is really central to de-escalating the stress and the pressure and the anxiety that we feel as it relates to our careers. It doesn't mean that your career doesn't matter. And it doesn't mean that you can't live your purpose or that your suffering is completely cool and understandable, but it really helps center and align, you know, anything that you're going through in this moment with really what matters and the bigger picture. And so we're here to kind of be that sounding board for you guys and frankly, to help you get to the right resources faster. YCP is a massive resource. I have heavily utilized it. In fact, I have a book, my first book coming out in September, and part of it is actually written based on inspiration that I got at an executive speaker series, one of the very first ones I ever went to, and I think Peter was actually there as well. So, you know, don't look at, and Mary and I are not cheap, by the way. Like, I run a business, right? She has a job. So if you sign up for 20 minutes with us, 30 minutes with us, an hour with us, you're getting an incredible value. And you're gonna get somebody who's on your level and understands where you are, but lives and breathes career strategy and career clarity as their mission and purpose. So please avail yourself of that. And then it looks like we got Peter back on, which means we get to start some Q&A, which
we have just a couple of minutes. So it looks like we have one question now. Michelle says that many times pursuing our dream career requires a component of financial planning. So I know you maybe aren't experts in financial planning, but how do you maybe address that little nagging voice in your brain that says you don't have enough money to make this decision right now, or you're not making the salary that you need to go out and kind of start your own business like you did, Tracy? Maybe from that perspective, if you could provide some guidance so that we can remove those types of hurdles from our thinking.
Yeah, Mary, you take off on that one, and I'll piggyback off of what you say.
Sure. For an easy answer would be that in some ways it's easy to get a job when you have a job. It's a lot harder to get a job when you don't have a job because you have to get more momentum. So an easy answer to the financial planning part would be to make sure that you're setting yourself up so that you're moving from one job to another if circumstances are in your control. With the extensive financial planning, that I would probably outsource that help to someone through either like Northwestern Mutual or New York Life, where sometimes they'll help you out with the financial planning portion for free, in hopes that maybe one day you buy some of their services related to life insurance. But there is a lot of benefit they can offer you by a few initial meetings. Those two specifically, I know through the companies I've worked with, can be an added value right away. And Tracy, is there anything you'd add to that? That was a great question.
I have a financial advisor. I would highly recommend to get financial advice from somebody who does it full time, in the same way that I would recommend you get your career advice from somebody who works on career full time, not somebody who's like had this illustrious career that you admire. Those are great mentors, right? They're great people to be sounding boards, but I would highly recommend that you get your advice from experts. Otherwise, remember too that every job, every niche, let's say, every professional gold medal level, right, asset value person or job can be monetized from giving it away to maximum monetization. So one of the things that I hear constantly from people is, well, I can't, you know, what if my dream job pays nothing? Or I'm gonna have to go from like, yeah, I'm miserable, but I make a bunch of money. If I love what I do, I'm not gonna make anything. I'm gonna be a starving artist. That is a really sad, socially driven fallacy that is just not true, right? Figuring out your niche and then figuring out how you monetize it are two totally different exercises. So I just want to plant that seed as well.
Excellent. Thank you both. So another good question here. So YCP offers an executive mentorship program, which is where our members are matched one-on-one with a more experienced Catholic business executive for that one-on-one coaching. We also have a career coaching program, which we're really sort of refreshing and relaunching now with both of you as our initial career coaches. Can you talk a little bit about career coaching versus mentorship?
Yeah, absolutely. In my experience, my mentors have generally been, now this isn't like a hard and fast rule, but generally they've been people that I admire, that are slightly older, that have some wisdom to provide, that is based on age, based on experience. And your mentor is your shoulder to cry on, your sounding board, the person who you can always just sort of straightforward be yourself with, as opposed to somebody who would be your sponsor, who's going to be sort of pulling you up the ranks in a job or in a business. So what a career coach does is help you take your strengths and your experiences and your natural gifting and help you see the magic of all of those puzzle pieces coming together. Imagine, like, I always like to say that, you know, no matter how gifted a cardiothoracic surgeon is, we would never ask her to do her own open heart surgery. That's exactly what a career coach is. If you're trying to do introspection by yourself, this person is going to be your third party, what's the word? Objective perspective into your own life and career. And they're going to see things that you're too close to see yourself. They're going to have a better perspective than you. Mary, do you have something to add too?
No, that was a great definition. Yeah, I second that. I think the only thing I would just echo back is that an unbiased, objective, third party is going to help you like see that this thing you said about this career that you want does relate to what you're doing now, and bridge that gap, along with many other bridges. So we help you kind of like see the connections between things.
Yeah.
And then that's just what we're kind of classically trained to do.
Excellent. Let's go with one more question here since we're up against time. So how about talking a little bit more about a LinkedIn profile if you're currently unemployed and going back to school before starting the next career? Are there any other kind of practical tips since you have that end date on a job and you don't have a beginning date on the next one to show?
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that?
The 30-second answer.
A quick answer would be if you know you're going back to school and you have a nice amount of connections, you can make a LinkedIn post and kind of like let your network know. And then you can feature that post on your profile so that anytime someone goes to your profile, they can see, she's enrolled right now at school, or he is enrolled at school. You can also change your headline to say like, incoming student at Mays Business School. Or you can put in your summary. There are a lot of options. I wouldn't say there's like one specific way. If you are unemployed, on the other hand, you just put that end date, you update your LinkedIn, you don't mask it, but then you maybe like put seeking opportunities in your headline, and we can kind of finesse that wording with you. That's a more like specific kind of one-on-one question, but overall that's a quick tip I'd give. What about you, Tracy?
I would just say that your LinkedIn exists to tell a story, and you get to decide what story that is. I think we get way too in the weeds about like start dates and end dates. Do I have a gap in my resume? Yada, yada, yada. Like, it's your story to tell, and you get to be the voice of it, especially it's your LinkedIn. You get to write it. So tell the story in your summary. Tell the story, like add your going back to school in your career experience. So it's a part of your career journey and your career trajectory. Just remember that it's a story being told, and you get to tell it, and you get to give the context that it's received in. Yeah. And then
Tracy, I know you have a little freebie you wanted to share as well.
I'm so excited, you guys. So check this out. I made a free guide for you guys. It's called Career Clarity for Catholics. I'm a big nerd and I really like alliterations. So here we go. All you have to do is go to tracytim.com/Catholic. And then you just enter your name and email, and you'll get this free 5-step guide specifically tailored for Catholics. It's really, really strong. If you're just looking for, Mary and I started this out with, where do you start, right? If I'm just getting started, if I want to make a career transition, if I want to upgrade, if I want to up level, if I just want to have some career development and actually be better at my job, where do I go and where do I start? This is going to give you step 1 in the process, and then 4 more steps to really round out your career clarity. And then to Mary's point as well, how to go out in the world and actually share that message in a way that's really productive, very efficient, very effective, and will actually get you where you want to go faster. I will say that my biggest frustration with my clients and my potential clients is that they get stuck in things that don't actually move the needle. If you are spending hours scrolling on job boards, if you've updated your LinkedIn for the 15th time, if you've updated your resume, if you're not making new connections and actually taking action, you may feel busy and you may feel like you're productive and making progress, but we are here to tell you that you're not. Your hustle needs to go into activities that actually move the needle. And in this day and age, that's through people. And especially for people like us, it's through genuine connection with people who want to help you and move this forward. So all of that's in here, tracytim.com/Catholic. We're going to put that up on the website page as well and here in the chat. And then Mary, do you have any last things you want to leave everybody with as well?
I think everyone can tell we just love our jobs.
Yeah, we get on our little pedestals and we get really excited about everything that we talk about, but it's because, you guys, it doesn't have to be that hard. It doesn't have to be that hard and don't make it harder than it has to be. Avail yourself of these free resources. We're here for you already. YCP has links to connect with both of us. Mine is for 25 minutes. Right now, my calendar is super open. You know, hop on and we'll get you to the right resources, whether that's a career program, whether it's actual tactical strategies that you can implement now, whether it's, you know, enrolling in something that's going to give you more clarity. Trust us to lead you to the resources that are really going to get you where you want to go.
Thank you both so much. This has been so informative. I know it's been both getting to know you, but also very practical content that we can take and run with. So for those of you who are interested in reviewing this again, we'll make sure the link for the recording is available. I just want to reiterate a couple of things. Number one, both Mary and Tracy are available to our paying YCP members. So if you're already a member, log into your member portal on our website, youngcatholicprofessionals.org. And you'll see a link there for Career Coach. You can click through and pick a time on your calendar. Take advantage of that. The cost of YCP membership would be paid for completely, if not over, for that 25-minute conversation. Both of these women charge more than that for a meeting. So take advantage of that initial conversation to really understand your career direction, whether it's within your current company, growing within your industry, growing within your business, or perhaps pivoting to something new. Number two, we're also launching a peer advisory group. This is a different program. It's called YCP Forums, and it's a great sort of add-on to the career coaching experience you may have. So you guys will see some marketing, and we actually have a landing page on our site under the Get Involved tab. Learn more about forums, because this is a peer advisory group that I think will be another sounding board for those goals that you're working on in your life, whether they're personal, spiritual, or professional. So forums, we have registration live now, and those groups will start meeting in the fall. But career coaching is available now. So if you're not a member and you enjoyed this is just a taste. Become a member, hit our website, and you'll be able to take advantage of follow-up conversations. I know we weren't able to address all the questions, and we're over time here. Lastly, I just want to say that YCP is here for you. You all are part of the YCP family. We want to do everything we can, especially during this time of uncertainty, to support you. Reach out to us, reach out to Mary and Tracy. Let us know how we can help you, because this is really the mission that we're all a part of here, to better work and witness for Christ. We're going to throw a survey up on the screen here. We'd love your quick feedback before you log off. And we'll be following up with some additional information on how you can take advantage of everything that we've talked about today. So Tracy, Mary, I want to thank you both so much for sharing your time with us and with our YCP network here. We look forward to more communication and resources and getting to know you better moving forward. Glad to have you as part of YCP.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Peter.
Excellent. All right. And if the poll hasn't shown up, we'll just send that to you afterwards. We'd love your feedback as we continue to build out resources like this for our YCP network.
It's only one question. Answer it for Peter. We need to know if we did an okay job and if you're actually going to call us.
All right. Well, we'll see. The poll may not be functioning. You know, there had to be at least one technical difficulty here. So, all right. Well, we'll send that out to you guys by email. It's one question. We'll send it out so we can get some feedback from you. Thank you all so much. Hope you have a wonderful afternoon. Sign up for membership. Meet with Tracy and with Mary, and we'll be in touch soon.
Awesome.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.